Hi Sudha. Hi Shubha. Uh, am I clear? Like I feel like my camera is not clear enough. Are you able to see me? Hi. Hi Prabha. Are you able to see me clearly? Or hi. Hi Suprita. Hi. Suprita, are you able to see me clearly? I feel like the light is not okay, right? It's okay? Good. Okay. That's fine. So I'm just waiting for Dr. Erika Patel to log into this conversation. Thank you, Prabha. I am just, she's just going to join now. Oh, okay. Perfectionist Tiny Yellow. Wow, what a lovely handle name is that. Wow, nice. Hi, Mamta. Okay, our guest has not joined yet. Erika, have you joined? Hi, everyone. We're going to be in conversation with somebody really interesting today, so please stay on and do listen. It's going to be very inspiring. Hi, Curry Leaves and Weaves. Wow. Is this the first time you're joining? Curry Leaves and Weaves. I don't feel like I've seen you before. Oh, thank you. I'm wearing like a sari with polka dots. It's like my polka dots are like my eternal favorite. Okay, where is our guest? There, Erika Patel joins. Go live, Erika. So I'm just going to send you an invitation to join this conversation. Okay, well, as always. Okay, Erika. Oh, thank you. You like the sari? Yeah, I love it too. Changed your handle name recently. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Can you hear me properly?
Absolutely. All good.
Perfect.
Except I can't see what you're wearing. I hope you're sparkling in some Gujarat beauty.
Oh, yes. The best of Gujarat. The
Oh, Patola. Wow. Fantastic.
only for you, I've taken it out of the closet, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to
You're
wear
most
it.
welcome. That's fantastic. I've been dying to own a Patola and, for the longest time. And I'm like, when I see it on somebody, I feel like it just looks beautiful, but I feel I don't have the courage to wear it because somehow it's a busy kind of a sari, right?
But I think once you wear it, you're going to love it.
Okay, lovely. So, so all the women who are logged in and the men who are logged in as well, or are going to be logging in, just allow me a moment to introduce our guest. Firstly, Erika, thank you so much for being a part of in the company of the Sari by Rajasthan Silks. And for those who don't know, she's a really new mother. Her baby is just 3 months old, and I just kept thinking today about how I was like when I had just delivered my son 6 years ago, 3 months after I delivered, and surely I didn't manage to look this beautiful. So Erika, you're like doing
Thank
good.
you for giving me this opportunity to dress up, Akhila. I was just in pajamas and t-shirts all day. It's been
That's literally what everyone has said every time they come into the show.
I know it's good, right? It makes you feel good.
Absolutely. So Dr. Erika Patel, for those who don't know, is a fertility specialist based in Chennai. She did her obstetrics and gynecology from Baroda. Her connection with Chennai began when she moved here to pursue her MCH in reproductive medicine and surgery at the Sri Ramachandra Medical College, Porur. In addition to pursuing a PhD in her alma mater, Dr. Patel also works as a consultant at the Nova IVI Fertility Center in MRC Nagar. She discovered running 3 years ago, and that's when we met on the road, literally. and she's been hooked ever since. Of course, she's a fantastic runner. I'm like somewhere far behind. She loves running with her group that incidentally I belong to as well, the Pete Rappers, which is based in Alvarpet. And is very, very consistent with her training and has been so even during her pregnancy. And we're going to talk to her about that. She enjoys strength training as well. Dr. Patel is also keen by virtue of, practicing what she preaches, hoping to inculcate and inspire more women to running and enable them to really understand their bodies and discover the joy and freedom that comes with anything related to running and fitness. So, Erica, it's a pleasure for me to be able to have this conversation with you. I'm going to start off firstly by asking you about just about, your new arrival, your bundle of joy, and how has motherhood been treating you?
Oh, it's been wonderful. It's been amazing. So, being a gynaec, I thought I know it all. I know exactly how it's going to be, but definitely, it's been superb. It's been a roller coaster ride, yes. It's been much different than what I imagined. And it's a whole different thing to be on the other side. I've been delivering babies. I've been on the other side, and now to be there, it's completely different. And I am enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I was going to ask you, that was my second question actually, as somebody who's delivering babies and has been doing that for almost, I'm curious about, like, do gynecologists in some sense have like an advantage? Like, do they kind of like almost like know it all in some sense? Or in some sense, are we all like universally, we're all like, in some sense, in motherhood, we all struggle and cope together?
I think I'm at the other extreme. I thought being a gynecologist would be helpful, but I think it was more on the extreme other end, because I would think of the worst case scenarios, all that I would have read in my textbooks.
Yeah.
I would know everything that could go wrong. And probably that was more scary for me, that what if it is this, what if it is that. In fact, I remember right when I was delivering, when I was telling my doctor, oh, I don't like this heartbeat, why is it going? And she's like, why are you listening to it? What are you doing? So probably, I don't think it's easier. I think it was harder being a gynecologist and delivering.
Yeah. I mean, like you really, there's like too much awareness, right?
Yes, too much that could go wrong, and everything, all of those textbook pages and questions and answers that you did.
Absolutely, absolutely. But Erica, that as somebody who went through it fairly recently, in some sense, and even though it's blurred out of my head, actually, honestly, I can't remember the first year completely because it went like a blur, because you have these. Like you don't sleep well and you're kind of like waking up, feeding, in and out of sleep, and then work, all of that, right? Like, do you feel like
every day is blur?
Every day is a blur. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, I know it's like, I mean, do you also feel like, that you want to kind of like make each day count, like as somebody who's also like, you see so many people, and I want to ask you this later, but also as a fertility specialist, you also see how people really, crave to have a child, right? So do you feel like that sort of, that having listened to so many people's stories, does the fact of like having a baby make that whole process more precious in some sense?
Absolutely. In fact, there are times when I have so many people at home who are ready to take care of the baby, and I get like an hour of sleep, and I'm like, so no, I don't want to. What if he's playing? What if he's smiling at that time? I don't want to miss that. I don't want to. Yes, I do want to make every day count, and I think probably in doing so, the whole day, I don't know where it goes by.
Yeah, I know.
Really, because I recently resumed work also.
Right.
So, and that was probably, it's been a week since I started going back to work. And I remember the first day I was driving to work, I just could not stop thinking. I would have made 10 phone calls at home from my ride from here to the hospital. What is he doing? What is he doing? That baby camera is constantly on the phone. So yeah, it is very precious.
Yeah, so I suppose like gynecologists or not, like mothers are mothers, right? And in some sense, we're all universal in the way that we respond to a child, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you have a lot of knowledge, but knowledge is knowledge. When you actually experience that situation,
Absolutely.
all that knowledge goes out of the
Yeah,
head.
absolutely.
You won't believe it, me being a gynecologist, also I would have some thousand questions in my head. Is this right? Is this wrong? In spite of knowing what is right and what is wrong. But still,
Right.
when it comes to your own child,
Yeah.
you
I mean, we're all like, yeah. And it's also so much about, I think the whole floundering and fumbling is what makes it also so beautiful, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the mistakes that you make also.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And the only thing that I learned and so many people told me was to really like try and like chronicle everything, try and remember everything. But sometimes I feel like in spending so much time on actually chronicling, you miss away on the actual moment itself.
I know, I know. You won't believe it. I actually bought those milestone books and cards and so
Yeah.
many things. I haven't filled up anything
Anything.
as of it now.
Yeah.
Don't
I
worry.
began re-gifting it to people, you know. Yeah, well, so Erica, I know that, you know, because we're friends, I know that you went through a really long labor as well. So I want to ask you whether, you know, and I know that you also like very, very consistent with your workout leading up to your pregnancy and kind of got back to it also like fairly strong. I want to ask you, what were some of the advantages you had, you know, by virtue of training that helped you deal with a labor of that sort? Or do you think all that really doesn't make a difference?
So, I have been working out fairly consistently many years before I conceived also.
Right,
So
right,
I would like to tell everyone that it's very important because I do have patients who want to start working out as soon as they get pregnant because that's when they start gaining the weight, which is absolutely not advisable. Only and only
right.
if you've been doing something before the pregnancy is when you can continue doing it.
Yeah,
So that's something that I would like to put out there, that if you really want to be fit throughout your pregnancy and throughout your labor, it's not during the pregnancy that you need to start. You
right.
need to start it much, much, much. You like to start investing in your health, your
Yeah,
fitness,
yeah.
much,
Well
much
before.
before. Yeah,
Right.
and yeah, I was working out fairly consistently, and I was running almost till the end. Obviously, very very slow, lots of walks, very
Right. Sure.
measured, and
Yeah.
I mean only because I was having a very healthy pregnancy. There are a lot of issues
Yeah.
in pregnancy that you should not work out.
You're literally, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, but thanks to my little boy that he let me do all of it.
I know.
Yeah, I do feel I also did a lot of pelvic floor strengthening with a birthing consultant called Dr. Sonali Santanam
Okay.
till the very end. And I personally feel that that is something that really helped
Really
me
helpful. Okay.
go through labor.
Okay.
Something very interesting that I did was a course in hypnobirthing with her.
In what?
In hypnobirthing, where
Oh, right. Okay.
hypnosis which helps you go through natural labor in a painless way, and it was fantastic. It made me have such a positive birthing experience. But yes,
Right.
so I was thinking, oh my God, I'm doing so much. My labor is going to be just
Like a breeze.
like a breeze,
Yeah.
and then it goes on for 30 hours. I'm
Wow.
like, what did I do? Why is it? But that's how it is. That's how birthing is. That's how obstetrics is. That's how,
Yeah.
and especially with COVID, it was absolutely not what I imagined. My mom
I
is a,
know.
I still can't believe that she was not there with me during my delivery.
I
I
know.
can't believe I was giving birth with a mask on my face, with no one around me. So it was difficult in that sense. But I think a positive outlook towards it is what got me through.
Right.
Through the
Yeah.
process.
Erika, I heard you use the word painless, right?
Yes.
So I was going to ask you, is there any such thing called painless labor, if at all?
Actually, I thought, okay, I've done so much, it will be painless. But I could not tolerate it. Very, very, very honestly telling you, I could not tolerate it. I did take the epidural at the very end, which I was very against because I was like, oh, I want a natural birth and I want to be like this.
Yeah.
But at the end, I think I have a lot of people who ask me that what do you think? Are you for epidural or are you against epidural?
Yeah.
And before I experienced it, I used to tell everybody, no, you should not be for epidural, you should go for natural. But when I went through it, I realized, so now my answer has changed to take a call at that time.
Yeah.
Right. Don't ask anybody. Don't even ask your gynecologist. It is your choice. Yeah. It is your choice. You have to feel good about it. Right. And just do whatever you think is right at that point of time. All the doctors, all of us are there to support you. If you feel you want to endure this pain, yes. If you don't want to, there is nothing wrong in having it painless.
Right. So, in fact, at this point, Erica, I want to ask you about the idea of empathy. Because, you know, I want to ask you, see, so for example, let me just give you like my own example. So when I didn't have a child and I would, I had a designer who at that point, she had I think an 8-month-old baby. Okay. And I remember that I would call her at like 8:39 because that's how like, you know, creative people work. So I would call her at 8:30 and, you know, and she'd be like, hey, I can't talk to you. I have a baby. And I would get so like annoyed with her. I'm like, but she's committed to work. What is she like making such a fuss? But the moment I had mine, my entire lens, the perspective through which like I was looking at other women who had babies has completely changed. I have nothing but respect for women, mothers, especially. So I want to ask you, Erica, that now that since you're in the space of birthing children and helping people, realize their dreams, do you think that by virtue of becoming a mother now, do you think there is going to be more empathy in the way you handle your deal with your patients?
I think I already had that while I was pregnant itself. My entire viewpoint towards my profession changed. Because it absolutely changed because I too went through the whole stress of it and everything, and I know that when I conceived, when I stopped stressing about it. So even now, if you see, you won't believe it. I think you would have even read there is a lot of research that has come out also. A lot of our fertility patients have conceived naturally during the lockdown because of work stress. Because because everything was shut, so there was no work stress, there was nothing.
Right.
And just that one. So it made me realize how important so many external factors are in conceiving, in birthing, everything. Even me, I would have been. I still remember when I started my labor pains. I knew in a second that okay, my labor has started. My first thought was I need to go get a COVID test because I'm not going to the hospital without a unknown status because they would put me in a COVID suspected ward.
Right.
So I said I'm not going till I get a negative. And the entire day, more than my labor, I'm stressing about my COVID report. What if it comes positive? Where will I deliver? What will I do? So it was so stressful. So I know that it really affects people, and it's changed my outlook so much towards people even trying to get pregnant, and the frustrations that are associated with pregnancy. I see patients day in, day out, and because of this pandemic, so many treatments have been delayed. Honestly, there are so many people. I, in fact, have friends who are shouting at me that with a 3-month-old, why are you getting back to work? Why are you exposing yourself to the hospital? And my only answer is I have patients who are waiting from March, trying to get pregnant. And because I have been through this, I know that they should not be. No. So I need to go back to work for them. Yes, I do take my precautions, but I think being mother has completely changed my outlook towards the whole process.
That's beautiful. And also, I suppose, go ahead, please.
It's made me a better doctor. I personally feel it's made me like, I feel more connected to my patients after this.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Erica, you also like the medical profession isn't new to you. You come from a lineage of doctors. Both your parents are doctors. Could
Yeah.
you talk about what it was like for you growing up in an atmosphere surrounded by medical professionals? Your
Oh,
husband's a doctor as well, so yeah.
my husband, my parents, my sister, my brother, everybody is a doctor. So, but honestly speaking, my parents never wanted me to be a doctor. In fact, they called so many people to counsel me against it. And we, as
Really?
all three of us as kids, we had grown up knowing only one profession. Yes, we had our
Which is
parents are doctors. We are going to be doctors. And for me, it was my mom is a gynecologist. There was no doctor for me. It was I have to be a gynecologist. And my mom, I mean, obviously, gynecology is a profession where you have to forget about everything. When I was doing my MD Gynec, I don't remember attending any birthdays or any functions or anything, getting up in the middle of the night, not sleeping for 2 days, 3 days. So my mom never wanted me to. So she in fact called so many of her doctor friends to tell me that okay, if she wants to become a doctor, tell her not to become a gynecologist. So
yeah,
yeah, I think that's what, but as when we grew up, I think that was the only profession that we
that you
liked.
knew, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I personally feel that being a gynecologist is a very rewarding,
very,
very,
absolutely.
very rewarding.
Yeah. Absolutely. Erika, I want to talk to you that I want to talk to you about, your, I know that you're, on your Instagram and you're really, really conscious of fashion, style, trends, and all of that. I want to ask you, what is your personal aesthetic, fashion aesthetic, style aesthetic? And I want to ask you if you believe that aesthetic is really an extension of who we are in some sense.
Absolutely. I mean, come on, all of us, we look at people and we judge
We,
them, right?
yeah, yeah,
How they look. So I'm not talking in terms of clothes or anything, but it
yeah.
just gives you an idea of
Yeah,
that person's
person.
personality or
Right,
what they do. And being in a profession like mine, I
right.
really feel that being properly dressed makes people trust you also.
Okay.
Like, I mean, how many times would you go to a hospital and see a doctor who's in a jeans and a tank top, right?
I know.
So, I mean, so in fact, you won't believe it. In when we were in MBBS, they used to fail students for not shaving. Like guys, they have to shave for an
Oh,
exam. They have
wow.
to be properly dressed because they feel that you are a doctor. You have to look neat and clean. You have to be proper. Because yes, and talking about saris, I love wearing saris to work. In fact, till pre-COVID, I used to wear saris every day to work because it's
Oh,
comfortable. It makes you look very professional. But the only thing is now, when I go to the hospital, there are so many things that I have to wear over my
yeah,
clothes as a protective
yeah, gear.
thing. Like if I have to wear a PPE suit over my sari, it's not going to
You
be
would be.
possible.
No, no, no.
So yeah,
Yeah,
I do feel that dressing up properly, and I'm not saying you go and wear like expensive clothes, but just
yeah,
be like neat and clean and
yeah. I mean, I like your point about, this really interesting observation. Actually, I'm trying to think of all the doctors I have met now, and all of them, like, like especially gynecologists, I mean, like Dr. Uma Ram, like always, like so spotlessly and elegantly, like turned out, right? And I like how you said that really inculcates in the patient a sense of trust. That's
yeah.
really such a valid point. Really, I never
It
thought of it
happens.
like that.
I've
Yeah.
been I've been practicing for so many years, and I have seen myself. Honestly, very truly, I'll tell you, there have been times when I haven't got time to, and I just go like that. And I still remember there was a patient who said, "Can I please meet the doctor?" And that's when I realized that it's so. And I'm like, I'm the doctor. So she that is quite a few years back,
Yeah.
but But yeah, that is what happens because that's
Yeah.
what everybody expects out of you.
Right. Erika, I'm curious about, the life of a gynecologist. Like your mother called her friends to counsel you not to kind of become a gynecologist because it is definitely a 24/7 kind of job, right? And I want to know, like, by virtue of being a doctor, obstetrician gynecologist, what have been some of the key life lessons that you have taken away that you kind of implement in your daily life? Like key takeaways from this profession?
I think the biggest takeaway that I have from this profession is discipline.
Is
Dis- Discipline.
discipline. Yeah.
I think it is something that was taught to us from our MBBS times that how we have to be punctual on time. Like for me, being a gynecologist, I can't afford to be late. Like even
Times. Yeah.
now I'm a fertility specialist. For example, if I have to do an egg pickup, it has to be a 35th hour. It cannot be 35 and a half hours or it cannot be 35 hours, 10 minutes. I lose it all.
Yeah.
So I am. So if you know me very well, you'll see that I am always on time. I'm always. I used to have so many fights with so many people because I'm because since I am punctual and so that is something that is a biggest lesson
Yeah.
that I have.
Fantastic.
Secondly, I think if you talk about gynecologist, I'm very light on sleep. If you like anybody who calls me in the middle of the night, in 1 second I would pick up the call because
Yeah.
that's how we've been trained.
Trained. Yeah.
So a lot of people ask me now as a mother that how's your sleep, and honestly, I am fine because I can sleep in a second and I can get up in a second.
Wake up in
It's
a
not.
second. Oh my
Yeah, I
God.
see so
Wow.
many of my friends struggling to go to sleep during the day hours, but I think I can sleep sitting, I can sleep standing. All these
Yeah.
things I have learned in my gynec residency.
Profession.
Yes.
Right, fantastic. Speaking of discipline, Erika, I definitely completely agree that you are definitely one of the most disciplined runners that I have, come across. So I want to ask you about, how have you implemented those principles of discipline in both in the context of your running as well as strength training. I suppose strength training came after and running came before. So I want to ask you about how you discovered running, first of all, and why you think discipline is crucial in running.
Honestly, I would love to give an answer that I started running because I loved running, but no, I started running because I wanted to lose weight. Uh,
Because you wanted to?
to lose weight. Yeah,
Really?
oh yes, oh yes. I was about I think 15 kgs more than what I weigh now. So
No way.
initially, yes, initially about 4 years back, I started running because I wanted to lose weight at that point of time. And I never ever really liked. I've been an athlete all my life. Yes, I was a Gujarat State badminton player throughout school.
Oh,
And me and my sister both we played for the state for many years.
wow.
Once we came to
That's
MBBS
fantastic.
and everything, and I think once I came to Chennai, for me the biggest difference from Gujarat to Chennai was food.
Oh, yeah.
And I really liked the food here, and I
Oh,
just went all out, meals and meals every other day, and I was eating because that is something that I had never had before in my life. And so I think I really put on a lot of weight, and that's when I started running. But I think once I met a few other runners, and once I joined your group in running, I discovered what marathons are. And I think after doing the first 10 kilometer, it was just an addiction. I think it was absolutely an addiction to do more and more and more
yeah.
up until the time I hit 42 in Berlin. But now it has become a part of my life. I
Right.
cannot. I ran till the end in the pandemic because I was pregnant. I was not able to go out on the roads and everything. Fortunately I have a huge long driveway in my house, So I ran up and down, and even after pregnancy, I'm back on the road because at this point of time, that is absolutely my me time. It's
Yeah.
that time when I
Yeah.
finally get peace of mind,
Sanity.
sanity, and all the things that I want to do in the day.
Right.
And I personally feel that be it running, strength training, or any other form of workout, I feel it really uplifts my energy levels. And I think in a profession that I really want to be very energetic and very inspirational for my own patients. For example, I see so many patients of mine who are um, having PCOD, who are having infertility
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
PCOD. And exercise is one of the most important prescriptions that I give them.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of difference if I know what I'm telling them. I
Yeah.
cannot just go and tell everybody
Yeah.
start running now. So
Yeah.
it's just because I have done it and I do it is how
Yeah.
I'm able to prescribe it better.
Right, for sure. Also, strength training, Erica. Like I know that you discovered it after you started running. But I want to ask you, often like if you look at the quads narrative, if you see Prashanti, they all talk about how strength training gives you a sense of you find freedom with it, right? There's a
I
certain
find,
freedom. So, what
yeah.
is your take on on what has lifting weights been like, and why is how does it make you feel more powerful about being a woman?
Oh, it does, and especially I still remember in quad, they put the kettlebells according to the weights, and I still remember me and my training partner Survi. We used to go on, and I think I was like very consistent for the first time in my strength training because for me running was always more important. But once I started lifting weight, it made me feel like so empowered.
Hmm.
And I still remember somebody telling me that we've never seen women go to the extreme end because they're like the heaviest of the kettlebells. And that day I was so proud of myself. The day you just lift the next bell or the next weight, it's like a sense of achievement that you have.
Right.
So absolutely energizing.
Yeah, for sure. Erika, I want to ask you about how, like, that, the quad shared your story recently. I know that, they talked about how you lifted weights consistently, how you were conscious about what you did, how you spoke to your coach, and how you sort of researched stuff and did this. Now, I want to ask you that it's possible that not all women have that luxury of advantage of a good coach, advantage of being able to sieve through material on the internet and actually understand, because the internet's like overflowing with information, right? How do you actually know what works for you and what doesn't? So I want to ask you about how would you think that women must actually tackle this, like I'm sure lots of women look at you and they feel inspired to do this during their pregnancy as well. How would you kind of advise them to do this a bit meticulously and methodically?
Yeah, so the first thing is imagine me being a gynecologist. Also, I read so many things before I actually lifted weights because I was so scared. It's such a precious thing, right? And
Yeah,
everybody will tell you that. So what's going to happen if you're not going to do
right.
it for 9 months? So my answer would always be it's not about me doing it for myself.
Hmm.
It is also benefiting me health wise in terms of gaining excessive weight or in terms of postpartum recovery or in terms of me being so healthy to be able to take care of my child on my
Child.
own.
Yeah,
But there are so many buts that don't just ever look at somebody doing it and do it.
yeah.
Every pregnancy is different. Every
This
single
is
pregnancy is different. And even me, I every month I used to be okay, checking, doing my scans, thinking, oh, should I continue? Should I not continue? So there are so many criteria. There are
yeah,
so many criteria that tell you not to do anything, and if you
yeah,
fall into that category, it is absolutely fine. I remember telling myself every day that you are doing this, but if at some point you have to stop it, Erica, you will not feel bad about it because this is more important you have your entire life to get
Yeah.
back to your fitness and everything.
Correct.
But so it is very important, not only at the start of pregnancy, but every month or every trimester, you must
True.
get assessed, you must get a clearance. Unfortunately, so these are the things I would say that you must not. But unfortunately, Akila, in India, even if I have somebody who is able to do everything, who has a normal, healthy pregnancy, who can work out. There are so many people
Society. I
in the society
know.
who will not let you. I mean, I have had so many people telling me,
Telling you.
"What are
I
you
know.
doing? What are you doing?" And I got away with it, saying I'm a gynecologist. But not everybody will be able to get away with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, not all gynecologists are also pro exercise. So it's very difficult in from the social point of view also.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Especially in our country, right? Where there is
Yes.
so many, everybody's so scared, right? Pregnancy, there's that constant lurking fear, right?
So, but I would have like one advice. You don't have to run or lift weights, but be active.
Sure. Yeah.
Be active.
Yeah.
Unless and until you have any contraindications, unless and until you are put on bed rest by your doctor, at
Right.
least be active. Because in India, I have seen so many people who would just be like, oh, you're pregnant, you sit and you eat laddus. That's all you do. And then you end up in gestational diabetes. But
Yeah.
no, you can't, they must not do that. At least be active in your house, walk
Yeah.
around,
Yeah.
do something. Maybe don't do anything heavy, or if you
Yeah.
have any medications, but
Yeah.
it will really help. For me, I used to think that okay, it will really, very honestly, I did all of that thinking I'm going to have an amazing labor.
Yeah.
Honestly, my labor was very, very painful and very long, and a lot of things happened. But the advantage I saw is in the postpartum recovery.
Exactly. The
That's
recovery,
when
right?
the recovery is where I realized that okay, this is how it benefited me to be active in pregnancy. Is when today I am able to lift my child and walk around without any aches and pains. Otherwise, I
Yeah.
have so many people coming to me with backaches and because of the breastfeeding
Yeah.
posture. So yeah, lot of things would help.
Yeah. And I think like the two crucial words in running as well are rest and recovery, right? Because
Absolutely.
yeah, it's yeah. Erika, when I asked you for your designation and I said like fertility specialist, you said it could also be infertility specialist. So I want to ask you, are those two interchangeable? And if yes, why?
So infertility is the condition.
Okay.
Fertility is a very positive outlook to that
Yeah.
condition.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I can write infertility, yes, but I like fertility because that's what I want to
Yeah.
give people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Erika, I want you to talk a little bit about, now you're back, at work and you're meeting patients. Could you talk a little bit about women who are perhaps planning pregnancies or women who are pregnant during this time and women who want to get pregnant at this time? What should they be thinking? Some of your own personal sharings and also from the point of view of a doctor. Could you tell
Yeah.
us like what should they watch out for, so to speak?
So there are very specific guidelines for COVID-19 and pregnancy. But the first and foremost thing I would like to say is that pregnant women and normal people both are at an equal risk of getting COVID.
Oh.
It's not that pregnant women are more susceptible, but the severity of the disease may be more in pregnant. But you are as susceptible as a normal person to get COVID. So I feel they should be very, very precautious. Now I'm seeing a lot of people already stepping out and going, but I still tell my patients who are pregnant, especially my patients, they have spent years in getting pregnant. I still remember the last patient I had. Her husband was working on the airport, and I had to tell her that no, you can't come in contact with him because it's such a precious thing. And honestly, you have to be just very careful during pregnancy, during childbirth. During childbirth, most of the hospitals are now equipped and take enough precautions. In terms of newborn, ideally newborns do not get COVID-19 because they don't have the receptors formed in their lungs. But still, now we are getting reports of 3 months and 4 months old
are getting it.
getting COVID. So I think this is a very, very crucial period. It's just going to last for another. I mean, I tell them we've been so strong for so long. Let's not give it up at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
From
Sure.
March, we've been doing this. This is not the time to give up. Just 2 more months, 3 more months till the vaccine comes out, we can hold off.
Yeah,
And,
3 more months, Erica. You think the vaccine's going to be out?
I hope so.
Give me some private information in this public forum.
All of us are hoping for.
Yeah, that's true. Crazy, huh? I just want to ask you finally one last question about the sari and the patola. Like, is there anything else? Like, Gujarat has like a bunch of like other saris that are, you know,
I think my favorites are patolas and bandhanis.
and bandhani.
I love bandhanis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
They have actually one very similar called lehriyas also. I don't know.
Lahiriyas, of course, yeah.
They are also very nice.
Lovely.
But patolas are, so the whole concept of patola is probably because of the amount of time it takes to make one. I think they take
Craftsmanship.
a year and a half to make a single sari.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah. Oh, Vishwas
So
Sajdev
this sari has a happy sad story. This
Oh,
is a sari
tell me
that my mom. This is a sari that my mom gave me for my god bharai,
Oh,
which was supposed to be in March, on March 21st to be precise, and
oh,
then yes.
gosh.
So and then the pandemic started, and I was like, it's okay, we will just delay it, postpone it to May. Not a problem. Don't come right now. Don't travel right now. And then April comes and May comes and June 16th is my due date, and I'm like, not happening. And finally, the only god bharai I had was online with my parents there and me here, and that's when I wore the sari here, just like inside the house, 5 of us. So yeah, it was a happy moment, but it was a very sad moment as well.
Yeah, but you still did it, and you had the baby, and
all the more special. So it's like
absolutely
that we are doing a talk with Punjab.
Yeah.
That this is what
fantastic. And many years later, when you know, when Arjun is busy like wooing his girlfriend, you can tell him about this sari and choose to give it to him if you want.
I know. I still I've been seeing some online pictures of onesies for babies, which says that I'm a pandemic born. So I have a hell of a story to tell Arjun about his birth and the timing when he was born.
Yeah, great, Erica. It's been so much fun chatting with you, and I hope we get to meet in person and cheer away to our cups of coffee, hopefully in Sangeeta. But thank you for you know, taking time off through definitely a busy schedule, being mother, being doctor, and doing this for Panchavarnam Silks. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Akila.
Bye-bye.
Bye.